Today on the In All Kinds of Weather forecast, the Gators are going dancing. Florida is back in the NCAA tournament after a 2-year absence, but Florida does lose its starting center in Micah Handlogten in the SEC championship game against Auburn. We'll talk about the impact of that, and we'll talk about the Gators' road out of the first weekend in Indianapolis in the NCAA tournament. This is the In All Kinds of Weather forecast. Welcome back to the In All Kinds of Weather forecast. I am your host, Neil Schulman. You can follow me on Twitter at All Kinds Weather and on Instagram at All Kinds Weather Blog. Also follow the show on Twitter at IAKOW Forecast. And as you may have noticed, we are more active on YouTube now more than ever, and more shows are coming. So if you haven't already done so, definitely be sure to smash that subscribe button, hit that like button, and be sure to comment your thoughts on what we're discussing today below. And today we're discussing how the Gators are going dancing after a nice run in the SEC tournament, which, to be frank, just didn't matter. We're jumping in hot today. Did not matter to the NCAA selection committee that Florida made it to the SEC tournament final. Florida receiving a 7 seed, which, kind of made sense a week ago after Florida admittedly had a terrible loss to the Vanderbilt Commodores, but Florida then went on a nice run in the SEC tournament in Nashville, winning 3 straight games to reach the final. And the selection committee seems to either have not watched the conference tournament, watched it or didn't care about it, or my personal theory, had these brackets actually filled out on Wednesday or at the very latest on Thursday and just, kicked their feet up and watched with some popcorn and maybe justified their existence by slotting some auto bids in there from the conference tournament championship games. But anyway, the selection committee, for one reason or another, just did not care about the conference tournament. They have told us it just did not matter. So today we won't even focus on it, which is, honestly, it's a shame because I was looking forward to talking all about Florida's run through Nashville. I was looking forward to talking all about how I was right about Mike White. We were all right about Major Mike. We were all correct in demanding that Florida get rid of him and get someone else. Time has proven us correct. Everybody who demanded that Florida do better than Major Mike was correct. We got another data point for that. Looking forward to talking about that. I was looking forward to talking all about how Florida won the season series over Alabama with a huge victory on Friday night just by out-physicaling a team known for its physicality. And I was looking forward to talking about Denzel Aberdeen's big game against Texas A&M, which shall forever be called the Denzel Aberdeen game. A breakout game for, to that point, a little-used reserve guard from Dr. Phillips in Orlando, but also wasn't necessarily a total surprise with Todd Golden's super advanced analytics. Aberdeen has been used a bit here and there to break the press, so it's clear that Golden did at least have some trust in him before this game. But so anyway, nice to see him break out on the big stage like that. But no point talking about all that because the NCAA selection committee told us that nothing that happened in conference championship week mattered the slightest bit, except for one thing. Actually, one thing happened in Nashville that did matter. Florida is now down a player, and a pretty important one at that, in Micah Handlogten because of a gruesome injury that happened early in the SEC title game against Auburn. His broken ankle mattered very much. It's a terrible thing that happened. The only thing that happened in Nashville that actually mattered. It's just a terrible thing, period, because, Handlogten – it really took strides, I thought, from the early parts of the season where he was just he was a monster. He was a crane. He was like a Taco Fall almost, and that he could just reach over guys and get rebounds. But he really developed in more technical aspects throughout the year, and we won't have that in the NCAA tournament. So obviously we wish him and his family all the best as he heals. But you know what's going to happen now? Coaches like, let's just say, Brian Dutcher at San Diego State, or Lamont Paris at South Carolina, or a Rick Barnes at Tennessee. They're going to take one look at that 7 seed beside Florida's name and go, wait a minute. So So you're telling me that Florida just won 3 games to make it to the SEC tournament final. 2 of those wins against fellow NCAA tournament teams. And not only does playing in the SEC championship game not help their seed, it also costs them their starting center along the way. So then if that's the case, why the hell am I going to play my guys in the conference tournament moving forward? Screw that. No, I'll just treat it like a preseason game. I'll treat it like a scrimmage. I'll get my bench guys some reps against another SEC team. I'll get the walk-ons in. Gator fans out. We always chant Alex Klatsky, Alex Klatsky. And before that, going back, we had like Jacob Kurtz and Zach Hoskins. We were always cheering for those guys. Yeah, that's what we'll do. We'll just get our walk-ons involved. Maybe work on some things. Maybe the other coach and I can, mutually agree, hey, this game doesn't mean a damn thing. So you know what? You mind just masquerading as our scout team and just throwing this full court press on us, because we're not really good at breaking the press. And frankly, we're probably not going to see you in the NCAA tournament, because teams in the same conference aren't supposed to play until at least the Elite Eight, unless, of course, the NCAA decides to make a rare exception to that, like they did with Florida, Kentucky. But that's an anomaly. Typically, teams in the same conference will not play until the Elite Eight. So yeah, we won't see each other for a while. So why don't you go ahead and throw this press at us? And by the way, what do you need? What do you guys suck at? What do you need work at? What can we do to help you? We'll just have this agreement where we can just mess around and get some guys experience and work on some stuff, and it'll be a nice friendly competition. Or better yet, don't put on tape what you want to work at. Maybe we can get some practice against a real opponent in some other aspects, but maybe we want to, maybe we want to install a horn set. Yeah, let's run a horn set. We haven't really run a horn set all year long. So maybe we don't actually run that in game, but maybe we use the practice time that we're going to get that week by being in the SEC tournament when the doors are closed and the cameras are off. Maybe we use that time to install it so that we can then throw it blindly at our NCAA tournament opponents because they haven't seen it on tape. Yeah, that's a fun thing to do. That's what the conference tournaments are going to be. That's where we're headed. That's what the NCAA selection committee has just very plainly told us that they think of conference tournaments. So, if that's what you're telling us, that's what you are saying, that's what your actions are indicating to us, that this is worth to you. Okay, good coaches are going to take that and they're going to say, sure, then we'll treat it accordingly. We will treat it with the same respect and importance that you, the committee, treat it with moving forward. So with that said, the rest of today's show is going to just be about moving forward. We'll talk about Florida's path through the bracket, how much the loss of Micah Handlogten will really hurt, and what to expect from the Gators moving forward. We do plan on having a guest later this week to help break down the matchups more, but this is just my first glance thoughts. And let's start with who the Gators play, which actually we don't know, because for the second time in the last 4 NCAA tournaments that the Gators have been a part of, Florida will not know its opening round opponent until less than 48 hours before the first game, as they will get the winner of Boise State and Colorado. And those teams are going to have a long week. First, it's a long flight from both Boise, Idaho, and Boulder, Colorado, to Dayton, Ohio, which is where they will play their first 4 game late on a Wednesday night. I think that's a 9:15 p.m. tip-off. And then the winner will probably get on a bus and make the 2-hour drive west to Indianapolis. And then some 41 hours after that game ends, they'll play Florida at 4:30 p.m. on Friday afternoon. So who are those teams? Well, Boise State is a team that does not play at a super fast pace. They play a pretty slow and methodical style of basketball, definitely a half-court offense. A lot of late shot clock offense. Actually, one of the slowest paced teams in the entire tournament. Their adjusted KenPom ranking, their adjusted tempo ranking on KenPom's advanced metrics site, which measures possessions per game adjusted for your opponents, is actually ranked 221st in the NCAA, which is very slow for an NCAA tournament team. also translates to them not being able to score very much. They only average 75.8 points per game, which is 108th in the Division One. But Boise State is big. They rebounded about +7 per game. Most of those coming from Tyson Degenhart and Omar Stanley, both of whom are pulling down more than 6 rebounds per game. And those two guys are also some of their best scorers, along with guard Chibuzo Agbo and Max Rice. So Florida will definitely have its hands full, at least to an extent, with those 4 guys. But here's where I point back to that travel. They're not a deep team. They do defend well, but that starting 5 plays the overwhelming percentage of their minutes. And I have a feeling that even without Micah Handlogten, Florida should be able to wear them down, especially inside. Should be a favorable matchup for Florida. Degenhart and Stanley are both 6'8". Tyrese Samuel is 6'10". He's got 2 inches on him, and he's got at least a solid 5 pounds of muscle on both of them. Alex Condon also 6'11". So Florida is bigger. Florida is better. Florida is stronger, especially down low. This would be an ideal matchup for Florida. But unfortunately, it's because of everything that I just said that makes me think it's probably not going to be Boise State. I think it's going to be Colorado that Florida actually faces in the round of 64. Colorado is similar to Boise in some ways. Slow style of play. The Ken Pom adjusted tempo ranking of 165th in Division One is slightly better, but not tremendously. But unlike Boise State, though, Colorado is not that great defensively. They give up 71.2 points per game, and they didn't really play that tough a schedule. So that's kind of a deflated number, if you will. But the difference is that the main difference between Boise State and Colorado is Colorado can really shoot the lights out from 3. Buffaloes shoot 39.4% from 3 as a team. That is 6th best in the country. And just for perspective, Alabama, which has the best overall offense in the country, shoots 36.5% from 3. So that's going to be a major league problem for Florida. Can they defend the perimeter against the variety of weapons that Colorado has on the outside? Florida has defended the perimeter well at times. They have not defended the perimeter well at other times. Colorado also has a terrifying all-purpose weapon in KJ Simpson in its backcourt leading the way, 19.6 points per game, and he's just a great facilitator of the offense, period. 4.9 assists per game as well, also getting 5.7 rebounds per game. He can dribble drive, he can finish at the rim, he can hit his mid-range jumper, he can hit from 3. So Gators are going to have their hands full with him especially, and also just Colorado as a team. Florida is going to have problems in this game. So that is why I think it's Colorado also that beats Boise State and gets the Gators in the round of 64. This will be a difficult game for Florida. Should the Gators survive that against probably Colorado, their likely round of 32 opponent is going to be Marquette. Brings out Ahoya, which is led by a man known as Shaka Smart, who once served as an assistant for Florida under Billy Donovan in the Gators' heyday. And Marquette's resume is impressive enough. It's 25-9 on the year. 3 of those 9 losses to the number 1 overall team, UConn, number 12 overall in Ken Pom, number 59 overall in points per game. They can score, but Marquette has holes, not the least of which is they cannot rebound, like at all. They are -2 on the year in rebound margin per game. And if you're wondering, that is one of the worst statistics you can possibly have as a top 2 regional seed in the NCAA tournament. That number 2 rebounding margin is 301st of 351 NCAA teams. 301 of 351 Division I NCAA basketball teams. And that statistic isn't just bad luck. Florida, I guess, yes, they'll have to be careful with Oso Ighodaro down low, but pound for pound, Florida should just dominate the paint against Marquette. Florida should be able to out-rebound Marquette at least 3-2, if not 2-1. Tyrese Samuel was just wider bodied and just stronger than Ighodaro, and Alex Condon is taller. And it's not just their front court that's a concern, too. Their second leading scorer in Tyler Kolek had an oblique injury at the end of the regular season. They think he is going to play in this game. They didn't think he is going to play in the NCAA tournament, but he's not expected to be at full strength. And that puts a lot of pressure on Cam Jones, their top scorer at guard. And they're just going to have to shoot a very high percentage that night, because if it comes down to rebounding, if there are any misses, Marquette is not in a good position to beat Florida. And that's what this comes down to. It's matchups. And that's where we get to the point of discussion of Micah Handlogten. Will his loss hurt Florida? So with all that said, the answer to that question, at least on the surface, for the first weekend, is no. Yes, Florida would love to have Micah Handlogten's rebounding ability. Florida would have such an easy time against Marquette. Florida would have things be so much easier against Colorado if they had a 7-foot guy like Handlogten. Just a crane, really, at 7 feet tall, just reaching out and grabbing rebounds. Also has developed very nicely over the course of the year, as I said a few minutes ago, from a technical standpoint. So yeah, it's going to suck to lose that, but it shouldn't matter this first weekend. It might next weekend if Florida gets there. But with Tyree Samuel, Alex Condon, and Thomas Houck down low, Florida still has more than enough pieces to own the boards against anyone it plays in Indianapolis. However, there is a caveat to that. Now you have no wiggle room in your front court. You absolutely cannot lose another one for any reason, to illness, to injury, to foul trouble, to an ejection. No, there's no room for error now. And the obvious, most likely scenario there is foul trouble. If Tyree Samuel picks up 2 or 3 quick fouls in the first half and has to sit, or if Alex Condon does, now Florida's in trouble, because not only have you lost your rebounding crane, now you've also lost your scoring down low too. Tyree Samuel's ability to finish at the rim is something that just can't be replicated. I mean, Alex Condon is a good finisher down low. He's not Samuel. And that's a lot of what Florida does well. They just feed Tyree Samuel, or they just sit back and watch him get some easy putbacks. I guess in theory, Walter Clayton and Zion Pullen could go off and carry the Gators to a win with just an unconscious shooting night, but you can't rely on that. So feeding the post, or even just watching your big guys simply vacuum up the misses and get easy putbacks, is a much more reliable way to win than by telling Clayton or Pullen, hey, go take over. Go dominate the game. Go get me 30 points. Go hit 7 threes. Go get to the free throw line 20 times, which, by the way, also asks for the referees to help you by calling fouls. And Gator fans at this point have to know we cannot expect that. So to summarize that, no, losing Micah Handlogten doesn't hurt Florida too badly if things go according to plan and if Samuel, Condon, and Houck do their parts. But Florida could really feel the effects of having Handlogten sidelined if one or more of those 3 have to miss any real significant part of the game against either Colorado, Boise State, or Marquette, or something that we won't talk about and speak into existence. So that's our show. We will do another one later in the week to talk more about the Gators specifically and what their game plans should be. But that's our preliminary analysis of the Gators opening weekend draw. If you liked our show, please like and subscribe. Leave your comments down below. And until next time, this is Neil Schulman from the All Kinds of Weather Forecast. Go Gators in all kinds of weather. Let's get a dub against Boise State / Colorado. And then maybe we can pull that 7-2 upset and see ourselves in another week.